Ready? Start. Sir, I rise to support the demands that have been placed before the House by the Home Minister. Sir, I need not remind the House that this year the Honorable Ministry demands are being discussed in a context which can be described as almost unexplained. It is for the first time that we are discussing the demands of this ministry after the country passed through the period of the emergency that rocked the very basic structure of our constitution and our policy and made the common people of our country realize what they have lost with the eclipse of their fundamental rights and freedom. Para. Sir, the 19th month of the rule marked the culmination of a concerted effort to undermine democracy. Those who wanted to destroy the democracy and convert our system into a totalitarian system had looked upon the Home Ministry as the main instrument for forcing their will on the nation. They wanted to substitute the rule of law with a reign of terror to place individuals above the law, to provide immunity to those whom the group liked, and to harass all those who were looked upon as dangerous to the monopoly of power that the extra constitutional caucus wanted to preserve. The then Home Minister was himself a captive of this caucus. It was practically a totalitarian regime and was therefore bound to be a police regime. That is why I would request the Home Minister that the whole police department should be thoroughly overhauled. Para. Sir, I do not want to take the time of the House by listening the various agencies and organizations that were set up in the police department and the home department during emergency and before that. I also do not want to take the time of the House in describing the fabulous amounts of money that had been placed at the disposal of RAW and other agencies. Even the money was placed at the disposal of certain individuals and that was exempted from the scrutiny of the Controller and Auditor General of India or the Parliament. I do not want to go into all these details, but I would only request the Home Minister to go into these things and ensure that such things do not happen in future. Under the circumstances, sir, the task of the Home Minister is therefore one of dismantling the police state that was built up by the previous government. Ready, start. I should like right at the beginning to say that I welcome the amendment which was proposed to the draft resolution by the Foreign Minister of the United Arab Republic. The amendment makes effective change, but I think it is a happier way of putting forward the idea contained in the resolution. When I had the privilege to put forward the resolution from 5 nations before this assembly, I expressed the hope that I would be accepted unanimously. It did not seem to me reasonably possible that any member of this assembly could object to the resolution. It was straightforward. It contained nothing in it against any individual or this group or that group, but it did represent a strong and passionate desire that things should get moving and that this assembly should not sit paralyzed as it is, could not act. Therefore, it was with considerable surprise that I received the paper containing an amendment on behalf of Australia. Para. I read it with care. I found some difficulty in understanding it, and the more I read it, the more surprised I was that any member of this assembly should have put this forward as an amendment. I venture to place before this assembly my reasons for this. First of all, it seemed to me quite patently that it had nothing to do by way of amending the proposition which we had put forward. It is not an amendment. I do not perhaps know the rules of this assembly, but it is not an amendment. It may be, of course, a separate resolution of some form or another, or might have been brought forward and considered by this House. If it was so considered, I would have had much to say about it and against it. The Prime Minister of Australia, in this speech, made it quite clear that it was not an amendment, although he might call it so. Therefore, I could not quite understand what meaning lay behind this amendment. I have the greatest respect for the Prime Minister of Australia, more especially for this keen mind and ability. I wondered if that keen mind had not tried to cover up with a jumbler of words something which had to no meaning at all. I was particularly keen to listen to the Prime Minister of Australia in the hope that he might throw some light on this aspect. Start. Sir, I must congratulate the Home Minister for the excellent beginning that he has made and for the speed that he has acquired to restore the fundamental rights to the citizens and to appoint commission of inquiry to go into the excess of the earlier rule as well as the shocking scandals that had characterized last years of the previous regime. However, in all humility, I must confess that it is not enough for the 42nd Amendment of the Constitution should be withdrawn immediately. The fundamental rights will have to be fully restored. The role and power of the judiciary must be restored immediately. Then the necessary correction in the attitude of the police cannot be achieved if at this moment we do not differentiate between those officers and men who acted on instructions and those who went out of their way to trouble and harass people during the earlier rule. If we do not differentiate between these people and do not give to the guilty exemplary punishment that would serve as deterrent and corrective, we would not be able to reorganize the police department. Para. Now I come to the area of general administration, for which the Home Minister is wholly responsible. Our public officers have not earned a great reputation for efficiency. Public petitioners and letters remain unanswered and under consideration for months and months together. Public petitions and letters written by the public representatives, councillors, legislators, or members of parliament, even to the ministers, leave aside the officers remain unanswered or under consideration for years together. Sometimes we do not get a reply at all to our letters. Our people have to suffer because of this. We hope the Home Minister will see that these public offices function efficiently even after 50 years of our own government. These public officers, especially officers like block development officers and the public officials, do not behave properly and they even behave very badly to the public. The Home Minister should look into the public officers behave properly and in a manner as to instill confidence in the people that it is their own government which wants to serve them and not to terrorize them when the time you have given. I want to draw the attention of the Home Minister to a very important matter. I know the law and order is a state subject. Honorable member was telling that our Home Minister has encroached upon this state subject. Sir, if some state governments and their chief ministers and ministers have in such a way which is against people's interest, naturally government of India have to take action against these people. Ready? Start. He stated clearly that he dissented from the last paragraph of the resolution, a very innocuous one, nevertheless with very considerable meaning. In fact, the whole resolution led up to this paragraph, the rest being a preamble. Therefore, he dissented from the very basis of the resolution. Coming forward with this amendment, he said that the effect of the resolution, if carried, would be undesirable. I wondered if I had understood him correctly, of if I had made some mistake in regard to what he said. Why, I asked the Prime Minister, from any point of view or from any approach, could the passage of the resolution possibly be undesirable? I have given through to this matter, but I am quite unable to understand his reasoning. Therefore, it must be undesirable from some point of view of which I am not aware, that which had nothing to do with the resolution. That is the conclusion I arrived at. Para. I would put it to the distinguished assembly with respect and without meaning offense. That is a rather trivial way of dealing with this not only important question but vital question which is shaking the world by calling it an amendment of the resolution. I submit that we are discussing very important matters affecting this assembly and the world. The Prime Minister in this argument talked about a conference. Why does the resolution suggest a meeting or a conference? I would beg him to read the resolution again because he has failed to understand it. It does not necessarily suggest a conference or a meeting. I suggest a renewal of contacts. Again, he asked, why should two people meet? Why should not four meet? Why dismiss the United Kingdom and France? Why omit them from summit talks? These are quotations which I took down when he was speaking. Why all this? He asked. Well, simply because there is no why about it. Because nobody is dismissing or pushing out anybody or suggesting it. He has missed the point of the draft resolution and has considered possibly that there is some kind of a secret motive behind this. I really regret that any such idea should have gone abroad. The draft resolution was put forward in all good faith for the purposes named in it and to suspect it of some secret device to push out somebody or not to pay adequate respect to some country is not fair on the part of the honorable gentleman. Indeed, I greatly regret to say that the Prime Minister of Australia has done very little justice to himself in proposing this amendment. Start. Sir, the directorates of industries of the states, which are the implementing agencies of the programs of small scale industries development, are expected to ensure this. Therefore, the center expects the state governments to do something about this. As far as the governments are concerned, they are complacent about all this. They are blissfully silent about the possible steps they may take in future, at least to plug the loopholes to prevent such incurring eventuality. They are not prepared to do that even now. They shift the responsibility or pass on the buck and say that governments are responsible because the small scale sector is within their purview. That is one stock reply which is often given. So, sir, this is how the multinational companies, big monopoly houses, etc., have come to occupy a place of pivotal importance and accumulated the riches in a very speedy manner by concerning all the benefits legitimately due to small scale sector. Para. Now, sir, The other day, discussion took place in this house about the amounts held in the Swiss banks. How this is happening. A study by the International Monetary Fund has confirmed that deposits in Swiss banks are to the extent of about rupees 1300 crores. At least 15 to 20 times that money lies in the secret accounts of the Indians in the banks of Hong Kong, USA, and several other places. Sir, it is estimated that the total amount thus comes to about rupees 30,000 crores. This figure is again escalating at the rate of 50 to 20% per year. Last year, foreign trade was of the order of about rupees 3,000 crores. At least 10% of this cost goes towards secret accounts which covers trade only. There are difference and other contracts also. Therefore, we can very well understand what will happen in that sector also. Instead of the money being made available for this country, it is being kept elsewhere in furtherance of their own interest. It is not available for any national purpose and development purpose. Honorable Sir, I want to make a passing reference to the big business entering into small scale sectors and concerning all the incentives, concessions, and examples due to small scale sectors. With a view to harness these benefits, large houses have started setting up their own units in the small scale sectors. Ready? Start. Prominent monopoly houses and FERA companies have done so and are still doing this. Some of the small scale sector enterprises are owned by the multinational companies. Small scale units are small because of the limited resources of the entrepreneur. The definition of the small scale sector, which is so changed as to permit monopoly houses to enter into the small scale sector. Therefore, what I urge that the minister should give a considered thought to the definition of the small scale sector, which is giving every scope to the multinationals to enter into small scale sector and concern all the benefits. The monopoly houses enter the small scale sector and several companies numbering 290 are in the small scale sector because of the lacuna in the definition which is deliberately retained. I use the word deliberately. I am sorry if I am wrong. I may be correct. I will be too happy for that corrections. Large houses entry in the small scale sector by virtue of their large resources, both technical and commercial, places the real small scale manufacturer at a definite disadvantage. He is eliminated. He is being annihilated. The big shark is eating the small fish. There is no turnover ceiling. There is no reference to the character of ownership. There is a constant upward revision of investment ceiling. Para. I give a more glaring example of an electronic company. Western, for instance, it registered itself as a small scale unit, but the amount it spends on publicly alone must be several times larger than the total investment of most of the small scale units. I will give one more instance of companies which are subsidiaries to big houses. There is a big list available. The minister himself must be knowing it. The government of India says that small scale undertakings which are subsidiaries are or owned or controlled by any other undertaking are not eligible for special concessions. Let the minister then identify those industries. The stock reply is, this is a matter within the purview of the state government. This information is not maintained by center. Let them not come forward with such replies. When I put a question, a reply came that the information was not maintained by the center. This was the reply. Is the government in the dark or do not want us to be in the dark? In either case, it is not good for the country. Government have more than 50% equity. We have private companies where government have more than 50% of the equity and their government has a definite and decisive say. Full stop.